Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation.
Now let's talk about the reintegration and repatriation of FBAs and Black Americans coming back to Africa, which is home. What happens when the bridge back to home is built, but not everyone agrees with how it's actually being built? So it's there. It exists. Not everyone agrees with it. Now, this is exactly the conversation that has blown up online recently. And today, I really want us to actually sit with it without judgment, just honest reactions and reflections. So a video went viral, maybe you've seen it, of a Black American woman who's moved to Ghana recently. She bought a vast expanse of land, and she's now openly inviting her fellow Black Americans and FBAs to come over to Ghana to join her to build a community together, their very own community in Ghana. Now, on the surface, it sounds beautiful, right? A people long separated by the cruelty of history, finally coming home to reconnect with their roots. And I believe that is absolutely amazing, because that shows Africa rising, the Black nation coming together. But as you can imagine, not everyone is clapping and cheering, especially at this particular move by this Black American woman. Some Ghanaians and even some Africans across the continent are worried. They're actually asking, if you're coming home, shouldn't you be integrating into Ghanaian society, into African society, learning the culture, blending in, becoming one of us again? These are the questions that some Africans are asking, instead of creating what feels like a separate, exclusive community. Because that is what is being feared right now. And listen, I get it. That concern is valid. Because when you start to build exclusive communities, even if the intention is good, it can easily feed an us versus them narrative. It can cause tension. It can make locals actually feel like they're being pushed out of their own spaces, or that they're somehow less than in their own homeland. And that's something that must be spoken about. But on the other hand, let's be real. This is not new. If you look at immigrant communities around the world, Chinese communities, Indian communities, Lebanese communities, they almost always find a way to form those close-knit enclaves, right? They cluster together, they support each other, they come together, they build a community together, right? I think it's a survival mechanism, especially when you're navigating a new culture, a new system, a new identity. So we could consider this in this context. And for Black Americans, this journey is even more complicated, right? Because they're not just migrants. It's a completely different ballgame. They're returning to a land that their ancestors were stolen from. So there's a very real emotional, psychological, and even spiritual longing, but also understandably a lot of fear backed with it. Fear of rejection, fear of not fully belonging, fear of starting all over, only to be reminded once more that they're different. So all these fears are very valid, and I believe that they probably could be experiencing that. So in a way, building a community of fellow returnees might not be about exclusion. Just hear me out, right? It might be about safety. It might be about healing. But you need to also hear me out in this context. FBAs coming back to Africa, is it the same thing as immigrants moving to other countries and forming clusters in order to properly integrate in society? Think about it for a moment. Is it the same thing? I ask this because I believe that FBAs coming back to Africa is the same thing as FBAs coming home. Not necessarily to a foreign land, but to a place that their ancestors are from, right? A place seen as their roots. Now, I also came across a few people referencing similar experiences in other African countries like Liberia, where, some Black Americans came, bought land, settled together, and created some form of segregation, alienating the locals. It did happen, but unfortunately, tensions arose, and eventually, some even had to leave. The locals complained bitterly. It's a sobering reminder that good intentions alone aren't always enough, and we must be very honest. There has to be real dialogue. We must come to the table and dialogue. There must be real integration, and there must be real humility and willingness to learn from the local culture. So maybe, instead of choosing sides, because I think it would be very silly to choose who's right, who's wrong. That's not what this is about. Instead of asking whether building a Black American community in Ghana is right or wrong, maybe the better question is, how do we build a future where both sides feel seen, heard, respected, and valued? Because that's valid. Because at the end of the day, the real dream is unity. It's not about walls. It's about bridges. We must have this conversation. And I would like for you to drop your comments in the comment section. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts? Because like I said, we must come to the table and dialogue. We are one nation, the Black nation, right? And I need you to drop your thoughts because I will be reading your comments and your thoughts and also making response videos to some of your responses because I think this is an important conversation that must be had. There must be unity because that is the only way, whether we like it or not, that's the only way that the Black nation can rise. We can't do it divided. It can't be Africans versus the Black Americans, or now what is being called is Africans versus the FBAs. I think it is the silliest thing ever. We must be united. Because like it's always said, divided we fall, united we stand. That is the only way we regain fully what our African power is. We can't do it divided. We just can't. But drop your